What would you do if you found someone eating your carefully prepared lunch at work? In today's story, the protagonist's choice is a masterclass in how to handle it. My new job at a small studio, part of a larger open-plan office building, had been uneventful until that day. I usually ate lunch around 1 p.m., an hour after most people, but one afternoon, I decided to eat early. Heading to the counter to make coffee, I spotted my empty Tupperware container in the sink. A jolt of confusion, then suspicion, ran through me. As I turned from the sink, my eyes landed on a man I didn't recognize. He was seated at a nearby table, my actual food, on his plate, having just warmed it in the microwave. My mind raced, a mix of anger and disbelief bubbling up. Without a second thought, I marched over and sat down beside him. "Hey, that looks good," I said, my voice deceptively casual. "Mind if I try it?" Before he could even formulate a response, I acted. With a swift, deliberate motion, I yanked the plate away from him and snatched the fork right out of his hand. He blinked, utterly stunned, as did the few other people scattered around the lunch area. I began to eat, every bite a silent, defiant reclaiming of what was mine. "What do you think you're doing?" he demanded, his voice echoing loudly in the suddenly quiet space. I chewed slowly, savoring the flavor of my own cooking. I replied, a smirk playing on my lips. "You know, this was actually much better when I first cooked it. It probably lost some flavor in the fridge." The color drained from his face as the realization dawned on him. His cheeks flushed a deep crimson. "Where did you get the gall to steal someone else's lunch?" I pressed, my voice clear and unwavering. "And then ask them what they were doing when they took it back?" he stammered, attempting some flimsy excuse about not knowing it was mine. "Well, you knew it wasn't yours, right?" I retorted, cutting off his pathetic apology. He mumbled something, barely audible. That sounded like an apology. "That's no problem," I said, a noticeable bite in my tone. "It was nice of you to warm it up for me at least." The man, defeated and thoroughly embarrassed, simply got up and left, leaving the remaining onlookers in stunned silence. This reveals the lunch thief's greatest fatal flaw, his brazen assumption that he could get away with anything. He completely underestimated my resolve. A couple of people who seemed to be his friends approached me. They told me I had been rude and that there were nicer ways to handle the situation. "Think about how you'd feel if someone ate your food," I shot back, before dismissing them with a wave of my hand. "You should focus on your lunch, and I'll focus on mine." In the days that followed, lunch became a bit awkward, and I got the impression some people were talking about me. "You could have done the same thing in a nicer way," some might have thought, but I stood by my actions. As one insightful observer later noted, anyone who rolls the dice by stealing food runs the risk of having a confrontation with a hangry person. In this case, the risk did not equal the reward and Buddy had it coming. I believed he needed to be embarrassed to learn his lesson. Initially, I considered going to HR, but my studio didn't have one, and the thief didn't even work for my company. We had a de facto office manager, but I decided against escalating it further, thinking my immediate reaction was sufficient. Weeks later, a new friend at work confirmed my suspicions. The lunch thief had a history of striking before. Apparently, people had started writing their names on their lunches to combat him, and he would specifically target unmarked items. No one had thought to tell me this. Of course, my friend also revealed that the thief blamed me for the sudden coldness and standoffishness he was experiencing from others. In reality, most people were secretly pleased he had finally been identified and dealt with. Aside from the thief and his cronies, no one thought I had overreacted. However, my reaction, combined with my professional attire in a generally casual office, led some to perceive me as serious or clique-y. To counter this, I started going to lunch earlier and chatting with people. Slowly, the office began to warm up to me. It wasn't a dramatic resolution, but I was happy with how things turned out. My reputation with my colleagues was off to a good start. The story's core lesson is clear. Sometimes, a direct and assertive response is the most effective way to address blatant disrespect. What would you have done in this situation?